Gun people, this is more for the cops. I'm going to talk about search warrants. Some of you may find it interesting. I'm going to put some links in here to where you can go and see some search warrants that were issued. This warrant right here is what I used to use, and I would make my master. So if you're a cop and you write warrants a lot, I would recommend doing a master search warrant, because what I did basically is when I do a search warrant, I have this master document right here that every time I do a warrant, I leave specific information in there and I add it to my master. So therefore, when I have to do another warrant, all I have to do is delete the stuff that doesn't apply. I don't have to retype it. So this is basically a search warrant that it shows how I thought I had a speck on my lens. I guess that was there. So in the search warrant, you're going to give your address. I changed a couple things in here. This was an actual warrant that I had written for something that I'd found when I was going through my stuff. So I changed some things. I'm going to give you a link to this so you can pick it up. So basically, it gives what I'm looking for. It moves down. I'm searching for the following: firearms, guns, ammunition, gun cases, etc. And then the additional orders is the different types of warrants that I come across or that I've done. So I keep the terminology already typed out, and that way I can either cut and paste it. But normally what I would do is I open up my master when I get a warrant, and then I save it as whatever case I'm working on. I either save it as a case number or by the suspect's last name, search warrant Gonzalez or search warrant Flores or whatever. And then I start working on the warrant. So let's say I just open up this warrant and I'm doing a warrant. So I open a master, I save it, I make another copy so I don't mess with my master, and I save it as this. And then I go down, and the things that apply I keep, and the things that don't I just delete. So in my additional orders, and you don't have to put these little headers in certain ways to where to me it makes it easier for the judge to pick it out. So I kind of make a little bold heading on whatever. This is called a sneak and peek clause. So if you want to do a sneak and peek warrant to where you don't have to leave notice, normally when you do a search warrant, you have to notify. If nobody's home, you have to leave a copy of the search warrant letting them know that I was here. And you also have to leave a copy of the stuff you took, a receipt of all items. You rip off a copy and say, hey, here's a copy of the warrant, we served it, and here's a copy of the things we took. Thanks for playing, see you later. And you leave. And then when they come home and find their door kicked in, and they see the search warrant here, etc. Now, if you kick a door and you leave it, you got to make some attempt to secure the door. On the bigger agencies, they had somebody on call. You could call them and they'd come secure the door. The county already had a contract with them and everything, and they would just come and secure the door and you wouldn't have to mess with it. Other places, they don't have that, so the cops have to make reasonable terms. You know, it's pretty common in the police world that when you arrest somebody in a bad neighborhood, their place gets robbed. So if you want to screw a guy over and he's being a jerk, you kind of sit out front, you let everybody know he's going to jail, he's not getting out, you start talking, you tell him, should I put him in a car? The crowd starts gathering, everybody's like, hey, this guy's going to jail, he's not going to be home tonight, we can rob his shit. So then that night they'll break into his place and steal everything, and then the guy will be like, man, come on man, lock my place up, come on man, let me call somebody to come secure my place or they're going to steal everything. Man, you can't get me out of here because they're going to know and now they're going to rob my place. Alright, so I got off track there. But anyway, that's how it normally goes. If you want to do what's called a sneak and peek warrant, that's where I don't want the guy to know. And you have to justify this by saying, and I've got all the terminology here that it's already written out, so all you have to do is basically cut and paste this. If you want to do a warrant or start your own master, I want to make this available so anybody, any cop can have this. And you can use some of the language, you can use part of it. When you write it, your local DA may say, I don't like this, or this is good, or I don't want this, or from now on change that. And then start your own master on your warrants. That way when you do a warrant, it makes it very quick. I pull up my master, I change the name, and then I start deleting things I don't need. So if I'm not doing a sneak and peek warrant to where I'm sneaking in the middle of the night, doing my warrant and then shutting it down, maybe sneaking in and setting up video camera or audio equipment so I can video and I don't want them to know, and I leave in the middle of the night and I get a key and I don't break the door, then I don't need a sneak and peek clause. So I would get rid of that. A Hobbs sealing is sometimes you have to seal a warrant. When you serve a warrant, you have to notify the person they're being served. Almost all warrants that I did on cell phones where I was tracking somebody, or going after somebody for emails, I would always do a Hobbs sealing. So Hobbs sealing to me is pretty much natural. I want the warrant sealed. I don't want notification, and it also prevents any other third party from telling them. So when I serve a warrant on a cell provider, by law, they have to notify the person who owns the cell phone, hey, your records were accessed by the police per warrant, and we gave them information. Well, if I don't want the bad guy knowing that, I have to do a warrant saying, hey, you are hereby court ordered by the judge not to notify the subscriber, or don't notify the person who lives in this apartment. You tell the manager, let us in, we don't want them notified, this is a warrant, it's been sealed, here's the judge's order. If you compromise this order, you tell the person, you can be held with contempt of court, you'll be arrested. So a Hobbs sealing, that's one way to keep the warrant secret to where it doesn't get out. That's normally for ongoing investigations that are continuing. And then the next thing is if I want to serve the warrant at nighttime, most search warrants have to be served by either 10 or 11 p.m. They don't want people busting doors at night, and the reason behind that is they don't want people thinking somebody's breaking in their house. So they want the warrant served by 10. Well, if you want to get a nighttime service, you have to justify why. So if it's 9 o'clock and I start going for a warrant, there's no way I'm going to get a warrant walkthrough, find a DA, find a judge, and have this warrant ready by 10 o'clock. Well, if I wait till the next morning, it may get out that I got the warrant and served, etc., and they might destroy evidence. So that's when I would do a nighttime service. Hey, I'm not going to be able to serve this warrant by 10, so I need authority from a judge to serve it after the statute that says I must serve it during daytime hours only. So now I get nighttime service. If you don't need nighttime service, I would delete this. No knock warrant. I'm not a fan of these. I don't like them, but if I needed it, I'd do a no-knock warrant. You have to justify it. Normally it's through officer safety. If you got a suspect in here who said, I'm going to kill the cops, or I'm not going back to prison, and if the cops come for me, I'm going to kill them and I'm going to destroy evidence, then you don't want to knock on the door and go, hey, police, we're here, and get shot, etc. So you can get a no-knock warrant entry. I think this is used a little bit. I think it's given out too easy. I don't think judges are strict enough when giving these out, but there's the option. So if it's not a no-knock warrant, I would erase this section. Next section is request for a special master. If I need a special master, and a special master is usually a lawyer appointed by court, the judges will have a list of special masters, and they pay these different lawyers to go. And because a lawyer has confidentiality, he knows the rules of confidentiality. If I'm searching another lawyer's office, or a counselor, or a psychiatrist, or I'm going after medical records, all those things used to be protected by confidentiality. Now the government took over healthcare. I don't think confidentiality is going to last long for medical records because the government's going to own it, and therefore if the government owns it, they don't need to ask your permission to give it to government. But that's another issue. So a special master is if I need somebody to inspect things that when I go for a search warrant, they're going to claim a privilege. I can't give this up because. So you have a lawyer go there, he looks at it, he can take it, he can seal it, you bring it back to the judge says, I think this is pertinent to your case, I don't think this is, I think you can use this, I don't think you can use that, and then you get stuff that is considered privileged that you may not be able to get. So if you don't need a special master, I would delete that. The next is a search conducted by an expert. If I'm looking for something that's very specific, let's say somebody robbed some high-tech crime and it's got some special chip that only the producer can identify, and I might miss it, or I don't really know what to look for because they took this whole box of different things, and because they're specialty items, I may miss it. I can ask for an expert to come with me and conduct a search. Now, if I want them to conduct a search, then I need to put this clause in here. But I can bring them with me, and I would normally put it in a warrant. I put more things in a warrant. You'll see some of these are the warrants I'm going to put up. I've got the warrant where they did it on Michael Jackson's doctor when they arrested him and went after him. I've got his search warrant so you can review that. And you can see some people will get very detailed in other areas and they'll get very short in other areas. I tend to think a warrant, the more you put in, the better it is. You know, those who have nothing to hide, hide nothing. Now you'll get DAs that don't put this in here. It might bring up this question, and then it gives them a way to fish and make it. They want to play these lawyer games and legal games. As a cop, I say, you know what? I'm doing a job. I'm putting everything out there. I'm not going to be called on the carpet later and say, why didn't you tell me this? Or are you withholding information? I signed this affidavit saying it's accurate and correct, and this is what I know when it's true. So I'm not going to be playing these games because some attorney goes, you know what? I'd rather you take this out because this might be an issue if we have to defend this, etc. And there's a lot of cops that I go, okay, no problem. You're initialing the warrant. You want me to take it out? I'll take it out. I'm not that cop. I don't take it out. This is my warrant. I'm writing it. You want to write the warrant? You write the warrant, get it signed, and I'll go serve it. So that's the clause. If I don't need an expert, then I don't need to have that clause. So I erase that. This is an anticipatory search warrant. If I think that I don't have enough to get a warrant, let's say I know a guy is selling drugs, he's a gang member, I've got an informant that says, hey man, he's going to deliver this stolen gun at this address tonight. Well, the stolen gun isn't at the address, so I can't get a warrant for that address until the gun gets there. Well, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to wait for the gun, then I go get it, because then the gun may move, or etc. You could claim an exigency, lock down the house, and secure it, and then go get the warrant. But another way to do it is to get you an anticipatory warrant, and basically you put this clause in here that says, hey, I think this gun is going to be delivered. I have this informant. He says it's going to be delivered. And when it's delivered, that's going to be the triggering act that would lead me to believe the stolen gun is in there. Therefore, I want to search the house and execute a search warrant. But the gun isn't there now, but I think it's going to be there. So in any of those cases, you get an anticipatory warrant to where a judge will sign it if you can justify it, saying, hey, I think this is going to happen, and when this happens, then I have probable cause to search, and I want the warrant ready in hand if this happens. So if the gun doesn't show up, then the warrant's no good. If the gun shows up, then the warrant's good. We execute it. We don't have to call. We don't have to delay. So if you want to do that type of warrant, next thing I always like to put in almost all my warrants is answering phone calls, especially if I'm doing dope, gun sales, gangs, or whatever, because I'll turn on a recorder, I answer the phone calls, and I get all kind of information. Yo, what's up? And they don't know who they're talking to. Yo, man, it's Jose there. Yeah, what you need? Yo, man, he's got some good dope or whatever. You know, I get all this on recording. That goes ahead and makes my warrant stronger. Now I have statements from a party calling the house that I'm doing a warrant for drug sales, and the guy's calling there wanting to buy drugs. That makes my case a little stronger. So I want permission from the judge to answer phone calls when I'm in there. The next thing is a warrant reissuance. Depending on the state you're in, most warrants expire after 10 days. So if I get a search warrant and for some reason I can't serve it, somebody got hurt, my informant couldn't make it, the stuff that I thought was going to happen didn't, or the place moved, or, the guy that I'm waiting to get in the house, whatever the reason, if the warrant expires in 10 days and it's no good, I have to do a reissuance. Because if I try to serve it on the 11th day, it's considered a no warrant and I lose everything because I went in there with an expired warrant. So let's say the 10 days is up and I'm like, oh crap, I need to get this warrant again. It's pretty simple. You just do a reissuance. You go in, you do an affidavit, you say, hey, everything in the warrant is correct. I still believe everything's correct. I have no new information that would lead me to believe anything in this warrant has changed. Therefore, I want a reissuance of the warrant for an additional 10 days. The judge signs it and it's easy. You just attach the warrant. So if there's not a reissuance issue, then I would erase this part. But I already have it in the warrant in my master, so I don't have to retype and cut and paste and go find it. And damn, which warrant? I learned this over time when I kept searching for warrant. What warrant did I use this? Oh man, you know what? I got this warrant. I know I used this before. I said, screw it. I'm putting all my stuff in a master. Now I got one document with all my stuff, so now I don't have to go looking around. A non-disclosure order. This is where, what I was talking about before, nobody can disclose the order. I did the Hobbs sealing before. The Hobbs sealing makes the order. A warrant becomes public document when it's filed. I don't want it to be public. That's what the Hobbs sealing is for. A non-disclosure order basically orders any specific person not to disclose this. So if I want the sale company not to disclose, if I want the apartment manager not to disclose, if I want anybody that enters the house while we're doing the warrant, I want to notify them. That's kind of getting broad, but you can put it in there. If you lose that, you lose it. If you tell somebody, you may not be able to arrest them, but you can put it in there and say, hey, you just walked in on a search warrant. If you tell anybody about this, you're going to be in violation of court order. I'm ordering you per this warrant. Nobody should disclose it that has information or knowledge about it. So that's a non-disclosure order. If I want to put a GPS on a vehicle, for a while there, you didn't need a warrant for this. Then they changed it. There's all kind of case law. I'm not sure what they're doing now with the Patriot Act. I think they can put anything on your car anytime they want. But if you need to get a GPS, then I've got this in here to put it on a GPS on a vehicle. Authorized to interview juveniles without the parents. You can't interview juveniles normally without the parents. But if I'm doing a warrant and the juvenile's involved, I don't want the parent coming in and saying, hey, I don't want you talking to my juvenile. So I will get this, and that way it gives me permission, especially if the parent isn't there and I get a juvenile, I don't have to wait for the parent to interview him. I can go ahead and interview him right there because it's in the court order and the judge says, hey, you justified why you need to interview this juvenile without waiting for the parent, so therefore you got authority to do it. Great. Let's see, videotape, a warrant service. Again, you don't really need to do this. You could probably videotape without this. Again, I like to put it in a warrant. That way nobody, no defense attorney's going to come back. Your Honor, he violated my rights by videotaping. He didn't have permission. He didn't have need. He didn't have justification. You know what? It's in the warrant. The judge signed it and said I could videotape it, so shut up, move on. What's your next complaint? Photograph and ID all visitors. This is always good because you always get people showing up and say, hey man, I don't want to show you ID. I don't want you photographing me. I'm leaving. And that really happens when you're doing houses where they're either, counterfeiting or drugs or selling, buying, if they're placing bets, you're going to get into this. So I always want to be able to photograph and ID all visitors that come there. So I always throw this little section in my warrant. And then I justify why I want it. And it's pretty, whatever I want to do. Ongoing investigation, through my experience with investigation, people that show up to a drug house are normally buying or selling drugs. Therefore, I want to be able to identify them because they may be a witness to prior acts by the person I'm serving a warrant, blah, blah, blah. So I just throw that information in there and get it. Indicia. Indicia is basically on all warrants you want to have some sort of indicia in your warrant saying, hey, I want permission to seize evidence that shows control of either the property or the things I'm seizing. If I'm searching a car, I want to be able to seize the registration in the document. I want to be able to seize any receipts in there where he used his credit card. If there's a gas receipt where he uses credit card, I want to be able to establish and tie him to this car. And that's what indicia does. If I'm serving a warrant on a house and Joe Blow lives there, I want indicia that he lives there. So I want to be able to go through his mailbox or his mail and say that he's getting his cable bill here. So I'm going to snag his cable bill to his name, to this address. I'm going to grab his credit card bill. I'm going to get his vehicle registration that lists him at this address. That way it just ties him to the address. So indicia is kind of always, you need that in there. Use of outside expert. If I need an expert for some reason to search for something, then I can use an outside expert. Somebody, let's say another agency has an expert in child abduction, and they're doing a case, and they might think they have child abduction, so they want this guy to do it. A peace officer can have just about any other peace officer do it, so that's not a real good example. But if I want somebody who's an expert in a certain area, I want to put that in a warrant saying, hey, I want this person here. And then for drugs, I kind of, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm searching for heroin, I've got some heroin knowledge in there. If I'm searching for a cocaine dealer, I've got that language. If I'm looking for a meth lab or marijuana, I've got that, PCP, etc. So if you're doing drugs, then I just take out whatever I don't want. So if I'm not doing any of those, I'm just doing heroin, I'll erase everything else. If I'm doing this, I'll erase everything else. It just makes my warrant go a little bit quicker. If I'm doing a bookmaking warrant, for somebody's placing bets, I'll put that in there. If I'm doing a stolen property warrant, I'll leave that in there. And then I have in there, I've kind of typed some description things in here. So if any of you guys copy this, it'll be easy for you to cut and paste. And you can read this and you'll be able to put in what you need to, I've got a description of a gun there that I want to see. So it's just a specific gun thing. If I'm doing a child molestation case, I've got things that I want to look for. Photographs, slides, negatives, drawings, digital pictures, any other representation of child pornography, blah, 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 blah. So I have that language in there, so you don't have to go recreate the language. Basically, this is just a good little search warrant document for any cop out there who's going to have to do a warrant. I've pretty much done all the work to where you can just copy and paste this. If I'm doing a vehicle theft, I want to be looking for individual stuff on the vehicle theft, parts, engines, doors, keys, equipment associated with a 1999 Ford Ranger, plate number, VIN number, any tools used to remove vehicle identification numbers, fake VINs, modified or, NHTSA stickers, parts with NHTSA stickers removed, modified, etc. So that gives me permission to kind of look everywhere. If I'm doing a gang warrant, I want to look for gang indicia or affiliation. So if I'm doing a gang warrant, I want to look for clothing, property, pictures of gang associated with gangs activity, including scarves, rags, hats, pictures, shirts, tattoos, posters, anything that's with gang symbols that identifies them as a particular gang, displays flags with gang signs, symbols, etc. So that gets me anything that I'm looking for gangs. If I'm looking for guns, I have this, so then I want to make sure and put the make, model of the gun. If I'm looking for a specific gun and I know it was stolen in a robbery, then I can put the specific gun. But the key here, when you're looking for no matter what item, you always want to, and I know the constitutional people are going to be yelling now, I knew it! You cops are dirty! It's trickery! You don't follow it! The Constitution says you must be very specific when you're issuing a warrant. So if I only go for my warrant and I put in there, I'm looking for a 18-foot shotgun. I cannot look in any place where an 18-foot shotgun cannot be placed. So if I go in there and an 18-foot shotgun can't fit in a refrigerator, and I open a refrigerator and there's a head of a beheaded body, of a murder that was committed, and now I have the victim's head in the refrigerator, I lose it because I had no reason to expect to find a 12-foot shotgun in a refrigerator because it wouldn't fit in there. Now, I would argue that, hey, if he took the shotgun apart and he pulled the barrel off, took the bolt out, he could be hiding a bolt in there, and I was looking for the bolt. But by making sure in your warrants when you're looking for things that are big, you always want to put you're looking for receipts or paper or ownership or titles or things like that. Now you're allowed to look anywhere a piece of paper can fit. So that gives you the whole house. You don't want to go in and search a house for a shotgun and not be able to look under a cushion or in a drawer or somewhere where a shotgun could be hidden, and then you lose if you find something. So you write the warrant for parts, pieces to the shotgun, ammo for the shotgun, registration of the shotgun, cleaning equipment for the shotgun, receipts for cleaning equipment, receipts for parts for a shotgun. Now I can look anywhere a piece of paper is. So that's how cops get caught up in, new cops, is they don't write a warrant or whoever reviews it doesn't catch that, hey, if you just put you're looking for a car, you ain't going to look too many places in a house. I want a search warrant to go look for a stolen car. If I put that in a warrant, I can't look anywhere in that house where a car can't be, which means I can only look in the garage, maybe in the living room, and maybe in the backyard. So that wouldn't be a very good warrant. So if I'm looking for a car, I want car parts, car registration, indicia that connects the car to the person or the victim of the crime. I want those things so I can look anywhere. If I'm looking for computers or cell phones, this is very lengthy depending on how it is. This is what we used to use. It's probably got a little bit more simple now. You may not have to put as much, but this can get very long. So I have all the different things, SIM cards, numbers, all kind of crap. So there's all your language for that. And I think that's all my little things. Maybe not. Let's see. Oh, we have a stillness issue. If I'm trying to get this warrant on information that is not fresh or current and it becomes stale, your warrant can be negated later and overturned or what's called quashed because you gave stale information to get this warrant. So I have to be able to make sure that my information is current. You can have old information in a warrant, but you need to use that old information to corroborate what you know is current. So when doing a stillness issue, you want to make sure and cover things. If a guy buys dope from my undercover guy and I go try to serve a warrant 2 weeks later, most reasonable people are going to think, dude, nobody buys dope and carries it around for 2 weeks. They're either going to use it, sell it, or share it with a friend, trade it for something else, but nobody buys dope and carries it around for 2 weeks. So that would be an unreasonable, so that would be kind of stale. So if I had a guy that bought from an undercover agent and I want to do a warrant on him, I couldn't just use that I was looking for the drugs that he bought from the undercover. I would have to use more recent. Hey, an informant told me he continuously buys drugs every night. He bought from this house. He also bought from an undercover agent 2 times before this. And he also just came in touch with some money, and he told my informant that tonight he's buying drugs. Therefore, I want to serve the warrant after he buys it. So you have to tie it and connect it. Again, you want to prevent things. Now you notice here I have a little section here, and some people I've seen do this, cops, they'll just put night service yes or no and have the judge size it, or sob ceiling yes or no. You can't just do this. You can, and you can mark this and the judge will sign it, But if you didn't justify it and articulate it in your report and in your affidavit, a defense attorney, a good defense attorney, is going to get that overturned and quashed. So just because you have a little box that says the judge can do this, you have to be able to articulate and justify that. So there's my statement of probable cause. I start off with my experience. My experience is pretty long. I put in everything. Every time I go to school, every time I change positions, I just add another paragraph. And that way it keeps a running log. Now, does it have to be this long? No. But, I put everything, again, I have nothing to hide. Here's what I can do. Later on, if you don't put all your experience in there, let's say I just put a short experience and, hey, I've been a cop for 30 years and I've done a lot of warrants and I've done a lot of investigations, and so therefore I believe, and my opinion is, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's going to be a lot easier for a defense to attack than if I gave specifics. I've been a cop for 30 years, and if I'm working a burglary case, I've investigated 60 burglaries, and I found evidence in all burglaries, and I've issued so many warrants for burglaries, and in those warrants, it's always turned up evidence that was seized and connected to the burglary, and I've testified as an expert in burglary cases. If I say all that, that's a lot harder for a defense attorney to attack than if I just go, hey, I've been a cop for 27 years and I've worked all kind of crimes. So again, I've seen lazy cops do really short warrants and judges sign it. I don't like it. It is what it is. So then you get into my facts in support of the warrant. If you notice in this warrant here, I had attached a few things. So I just attached a West Sac PD report. It was 21 pages, and I attached a 12-page. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I attach all these reports. Now, judges kind of don't like that because they're supposed to read all that. But hey, you know what? Let them read it. I don't want them to come back later saying I withheld something. So then I just give a quick synopsis on what I'm doing. I kind of download it, and then I request a search warrant. Come down here. If you do a Hobbs sealing warrant, you got to have a separate piece of paper, because this piece of paper is going to go in front of the warrant. And so when I'm doing this, once I have a Hobbs sealing order, I have this document right here. And that way, when the judge signs this in two places, he's going to sign my warrant and he's going to sign this. Now, when I turn my warrant in, because you have to register your warrant with the court and turn it into the clerk, they're going to have this on the top. So anybody that opens that warrant and looks at it, they're going to go, oh, this warrant's sealed. We can't release any information. Nobody's supposed to read it. And, technically, the people who are filing it ain't supposed to read it because it's sealed. Now, don't ask me if they do, because I'm sure they do, but whatever. And then I have a return search warrant, because when you do a warrant, after you serve it, you have to give, per law, you have to give a return warrant to the court saying, hey, the warrant that you signed, I served it on this day, and here's what I received. And usually you just attach a copy of your receipt for all the items that you seized, and you say, here's the things that I seized. And then you sign it and you give it back to the judge. So that's the return warrant. So this would be my master warrant. And again, I'm going to put a link to these documents. This was an arrest warrant sheet that we used to use. I kind of designed this off of a Sac Sheriff had one for their county, and I kind of cut and pasted some of their stuff. Mine's a little bit different. So basically, I got information here. So if I'm going out and we're doing multiple warrants, it makes it easy. I can put all their identifying information. I put the location. I X what time of warrant we're doing, whether it's arrest, search, if we're doing a probation search, parole search, contact, if we're going to try to get in the house with a consent. I mark that little box. And then, what we would do on task forces is I would make up a list of 20 guys that we're going to go hit today. And so when we're going to hit those guys, I would assign each officer one or two of these guys, either because it's in their county or they have knowledge, or someone would say, hey man, I want this guy, add this guy to your next warrant, the next list you do, add this guy and I want him. So then I would add him to it. And then I go over here and I get information like, any things that I know about the guy, whether there's dogs at the place, whether there's weapons, drugs, kids, any things that we might have to do. And then I could put any notes in here that I need to put in here. And then, of course, when you do this, anytime you do a warrant list like this, where you're doing a mass and a search, you want to have copies of a picture of the guy. You want to print out his DMV picture. You want to print out his criminal history. You want to print out any probation or parole status so we know who he is. And you want to run the guy to make sure that he wasn't picked up. A lot of times we'll go out and arrest and we don't check. We get to the house, kick the door, get in a fight, end up fighting somebody, and the guy's already in jail. He was arrested last night. And because we didn't check that morning, we checked the day before. He wasn't arrested the day before. He got arrested last night. We didn't check in the morning. And then we got egg on our face. And now we got problems because we're at a house. And the guy was already in custody. And, you know, now there's all kind of issues. So when you do one of these lists in the morning, the first thing you want to do is run everybody on your list and make sure any warrants are still active and none of these people are in custody in your county. If they got arrested in another state or another county, you'd be okay with that. But as long as you do due diligence and saying, hey, I checked that morning and none of these guys were in custody, therefore if we go to a house and we get in a shooting and somebody dies, they're not going to come back and go, you didn't even check these guys. This guy was in jail last night and you gave a warrant, you kicked, now a guy's dead and it's your fault because you were lazy and didn't check. Well, you got egg on your face. Not a good place to be. And then this warrant right here is, I think the warrant that, was this for the drugs? Houston. Anyway, I'm going to do a lot of these warrants. I thought I had pulled up